All right, what's going on YouTube? So for those of you guys streaming in, I'm gonna introduce myself in 1 sec. Let me just go live on Facebook. Mhm. All right. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Music, and a little bit about me. I just graduated college 2 weeks ago from Penn State University with an engineering degree, and something that I love to study besides schoolwork was this book right here called Think and Grow Rich. And so, what I wanted to do today was actually teach this book to you. And with that being said, I'm going to continue on. So, I have been doing some lives reading this, and I am currently on chapter 7, which is organized planning. Truthfully, this chapter is the biggest chapter in the book. I think it's 65 pages. I did the math, so I may not get through it all right away today. However, my goal is to get as far as I can and then pick up where I left off. I'm probably going to read to, let's see. So many good pages in this book. Okay, I'm gonna read. I'm just gonna read, go for it, and see where I get left off. And also, for those of you who are not a part of my group yet, I have a live Facebook group. It's called Think and Grow Rich with Michael Music. I'm pretty sure if you just search up Think and Grow Rich in Facebook, it will be like the third one that pops up. There's like 2 public masterminds. So I highly suggest that you join that group, because what I'm going to do is after I read this whole book, just like through each chapter, then I'm going to start posting my Facebook lives in there. And if you can't really access the Facebook group, you can also find me on YouTube at Michael Music, just Muzyk. It's not spelled Music. So search me up on there. And with that being said, that's where you can find me. So, hey, Annette, how are you? I am reading today Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 7, Organized Planning, the Crystallization of Desire into Action, the 6th Step Toward Riches. You have learned that everything man creates or acquires begins in the form of desire. That desire is taken on the first lap of its journey, from the abstract to the concrete into the workshop of the imagination, where plans for its transition are created and organized. In Chapter 2, you are instructed to take 6 definite practical steps as you first move in translating the desire for money into its monetary equivalent. One of these steps is the formation of definite practical plan or plans through which this transformation may be made. You will now be instructed how to build plans which will be practical via A. Ally yourself with a group of as many people as you may need for the creation of carrying out your plan or plans for the accumulation of money, making use of the mastermind principle described in a later chapter. Compliance with this instruction is absolutely essential. Do not neglect it. So I want to pause right there. What Napoleon Hill is saying in forming plans, and this is something I've realized, without your own version of whatever it may be, a mastermind group, you will most likely not stay accountable to it. So that is why it is so important to have a mastermind group in terms of making plans. So B, before forming your mastermind alliance, decide what advantages and benefits you may offer the individual members of your group in return for their cooperation. No one will work indefinitely without some form of compensation. No intelligent person will either request or expect another to work without adequate compensation, although this may not always be in the form of money. C. Arrange to meet with the members of your mastermind group at least twice a week and more often if possible until you have jointly perfected the necessary plan or plans for the accumulation of money. D. Maintain perfect harmony between yourself and every member of your mastermind group. If you fail to carry out this instruction to the letter, you may expect to meet with failure. The mastermind principle cannot obtain where perfect harmony does not prevail. Keep in mind these facts. First, you are engaged in an undertaking of major importance to you. To be sure of success, you must have plans which are faultless. Second, you must have the advantage of the experience, education, native ability, and imagination of other minds. This is in harmony with the methods followed by every person who has accumulated a great fortune. No individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people. Every plan you adopt in your endeavor to accumulate wealth should be the joint creation of yourself and every other member of your mastermind group. You may originate your own plans, either in whole or in part, but see that those plans are checked and approved by the members of your mastermind alliance. If the first plan which you adopt does not work successfully, replace it with a new plan. If this new plan fails to work, replace it in turn with still another, and so on until you find the plan which does work. So, what Napoleon Hill is saying in this sentence is yes, start out with a plan and do the plan. Just do it. Don't try it, just do it. And if that plan fails, realize that, okay, this isn't the right plan. Let me create a new plan to take the form of that. And what this will do is it may seem like you're not getting anywhere at first because your plans is really what sucks. But what happens is the fact that you took an action step and then reevaluated it, that's the real lesson of learning. And what you can do from there is now create a new plan. And with persistence and applying these 13 principles in this book, you will eventually come across the right plan. See, something I learned is that success leaves clues. And that's why I'm doing this whole Think and Grow Rich mastermind, because I have a mentor, Sean. I've been able to physically see his property and his vision. And that started, maybe it didn't start, but I know that he had great momentum the moment he started doing lives every day. So I was just like, okay, might as well follow his path because it's been proven. And then I also know that he has taught people like Nano, who exactly has what I want in life. And he's doing this thing where he goes live Monday through Friday. So for me, I'm just like, okay, why not teach this book, Think and Grow Rich, and follow this plan? Because the plans I've been following have not been really working for me. Right here is the point at which the majority of men meet with failure because of their lack of persistence in creating new plans to take the place of those which fail. The most intelligent man living cannot succeed in accumulating money, nor in any other undertaking, without plans which are practical and workable. Just keep this fact in mind. And remember, when your plans fail, that temporary defeat is not permanent failure. It may only mean that your plans have not been sound. Build other plans, start all over again. Oh, wow. Okay, so Thomas A. Edison failed 10,000 times before he perfected the incandescent electric light bulb. That is, he met with temporary defeat 10,000 times before his efforts were crowned with success. Temporary defeat should mean only one thing: the certain knowledge that there is something wrong with your plan. Okay, so keep this in mind. If you experience temporary defeat, and this is to myself as well, that's how powerful this book is. Keep in mind the fact that there's something wrong with your plan. So that's the idea of this book. Is in chapter 2 on desire, we were told in the 6 definite steps for converting desire into his physical counterpart to create a definite plan. And this chapter on organized planning, which is the biggest chapter in the book, is all about bettering your plans. So for me, I've been working hard. I've been just really head down working hard and obtaining a ton of resistance and achieving my dreams. And now I get to realize, okay, it was my plans that sucked. And now I get to think about, just after reflecting on that, I get to now focus on building new plans. Thomas A. Edison failed 10,000 times before he invented the incandescent electric light bulb. That is, he met with temporary defeat 10,000 times before his efforts were crowned with success. Temporary defeat should mean only one thing: the certain knowledge that there is something wrong with your plan. Millions of men go through life in misery and poverty because they lack a sound plan through which to accumulate a fortune. Henry Ford accumulated a fortune not because of his superior mind, but because he adopted and followed a plan which proved to be sound. 1,000 men could be pointed out, each with a better education than Ford's, yet each of whom lives in poverty because he does not possess the right plan for the accumulation of money. Your achievement can be no greater than your plans are sound. That may seem to be axiomatic statement, but it is true. Samuel Insull lost his fortune of over $100 million. The Insull fortune was built on plans which were sound. The business depression forced Mr. Insull to change his plans, and the change brought him temporary defeat because his new plans were not sound. Mr. Insull is now an old man. He may consequently accept failure instead of temporary defeat, but if his experience turns out to be failure, it will be for the reason that he lacks the fire of persistence to rebuild his plans. So, what I'm getting from this is later on, another day when I'm teaching this book or just reading it and telling you guys what comes to my mind, is that it's really that key of persistence and not only applying the plan that you have, no matter what that plan is, have that persistence to apply it. Realize that maybe you have to change up the plan as you go along on your journey and keep going at it with persistence. That is, for me, really important to acknowledge. That gives me faith in just reading this book on how to really understand it, because I was constantly reading it over and over and over again, but it wasn't until I started teaching it that I started to learn it in a new way. So that's a new plan. And even though it's still my first time reading through on this book, I'm going to keep reading it over and over again and persist with this plan, see how that works, and edit the plan in the future. No man is ever whipped until he quits. And it's not until he quits in his own mind. So it says, no man is ever whipped until he quits in his own mind. This fact will be repeated many times because it is so easy to take the count at the first sign of defeat. James J. Hill met with temporary defeat when he first endeavored to raise the necessary capital to build a railroad from the east to the west, but he too turned defeat into victory through new plans. Henry Ford met with temporary defeat not only at the beginning of his automobile career, but after he had gone far towards the top. He created new plans and went marching on to financial victory. We see men who have accumulated great fortunes, but we often recognize only their triumph, overlooking the temporary defeats which they had to surmount before arriving. Wow. Okay, so keep this in mind. It says, we see men who have accumulated great fortunes, but we often recognize only their triumph or their victory. We often overlook the temporary defeats which they had to surmount before arriving. No follower of this philosophy can reasonably expect to accumulate a fortune without experiencing temporary defeat. When defeat comes, accept it as a signal that your plans are not sound, rebuild those plans, and set sail once more to your coveted goal. If you give up before your goal has been reached, you are a quitter. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Lift this sentence out, write it on a piece of paper in letters an inch high, and place it where you will see it every night before you go to sleep and every morning before you work. Okay, so what I'm going to do with that information is write that down. If you're watching the replay or watching this live, I want you to write down: a quitter never wins, and the winner never quits. That quote hits me so hard a lot of the times. Because I set a big goal, and there's been times I have been met with temporary defeat, and there's been times where I thought maybe this isn't the right goal. But maybe it's not that it's not the right goal, it's that my plan wasn't working, and I can't give up because there is a better plan out there for me to follow. People have done the goal that I wanted to get before, and maybe it's smart to keep working on better plans, apply them with persistence, and eventually I will come across the right plan that will give me what I want. That hits me deeply. Okay. When you begin to select members for your mastermind group, endeavor to select those who do not take defeat seriously. Some people foolishly believe that only money can make money. This is not true. Desire, transmute it into its monetary equivalent through the principles laid down here, is the agency through which money is made. Money of itself is nothing but inert matter. It cannot move, think, or talk, but it can hear. When a man who desires it calls it to come. Okay, so Napoleon Hill breaks down a huge stigma that it takes money to make money, and that is completely not 100% true. It's not false. It does. You can make money with money, but it is not 100% true. What is true is a burning desire, transmute it into its monetary equivalent through the 13 principles laid down in this entire book, is the agency from which money is made. So, oh wow, I was literally going to say that money's energy, and Napoleon Hill puts it on the next sentence. Money itself is nothing but inert matter. It cannot move, think, or talk, but it can hear. When a man who desires it calls it to come. Wow. All right, next section, planning the sale of services. The remainder of this chapter has been given over to a description of ways and means of marketing personal services. The information here conveyed will be of practical help to any person having any form of personal services to market, but it will be of priceless benefit to those who aspire to leadership in their chosen occupations. Intelligent planning is essential for success in any undertaking designed to accumulate riches. Here will be found detailed instructions to those who must begin the accumulation of riches by selling personal services. It should be encouraging to know that practically all the great fortunes began in the form of constant compensation for personal services or from the sale of ideas. What else, except ideas and personal services, would one not possessed of property have to give in return for riches? Broadly speaking, there are two types of people. Broadly speaking, there are two types of people in the world. One type is known as leaders and the other as followers. Decide at the outset whether you intend to become a leader in your chosen calling or remain a follower. The difference in compensation is vast. The follower cannot reasonably expect the compensation to which a leader is entitled, although many followers make the mistake of expecting such pay. It is no disgrace to be a follower. On the other hand, it is no credit to remain a follower. Most great leaders began in the capacity of followers. They became great leaders because they were intelligent followers, with few exceptions. The man who cannot follow a leader intelligently cannot become an efficient leader. The man who can follow a leader most efficiently is usually the man who develops into leadership most rapidly. An intelligent follower has many advantages, among them the opportunity to acquire knowledge from his leader. So Napoleon Hill is saying, yes, it is good to start out as a follower. I have been following my mentor Sean since I was 20 years old, and I am currently 22 and a half years old, almost a half years old right now. So I was a follower for 2.5 years, but now I'm stepping into my greatness and becoming a leader. And my world, it's little things. Little things in my world are changing for the better. And so that is cool to finally be applying what Napoleon Hill has been saying to me over and over and over on this page. There's something else that hit me on the previous page. Okay, I want to go back to the previous page. I underlined this sentence, so I want to read it real carefully because this is key. Napoleon Hill said in the previous page, it should be encouraging to know that practically all the great fortunes began in the form of compensation for personal services or from the sale of ideas. So there's two ways that I learned to earn money, to provide valuable service or to provide value. And what I found out from yesterday is that hard work alone will not create riches. Hard work does not alone create riches. I will need to work hard, but that alone won't create riches. What will create riches is, where was I going with that? I think what I was trying to go with it is to provide value. And so I could be up against a laborer who's working 12 hours a day using all of his muscle, or I could sit here on this live, create a community where I'm providing value by teaching possibly one of the most impactful books ever written, and still have faith that I will eventually earn money for teaching this stuff. So that feels good to know that I can sell these ideas, because the ideas on this entire principles, these 13 ideas, is what I'm trying to sell you right now. And I'm doing it for free. I'm not charging anything for this. I'm just selling the fact that these ideas are valuable. I know for a fact that Bob Proctor earns $2,000 for teaching this book. I'm sure one day that if I stay consistent with this for 60 years like he has, and possibly much sooner if I do it in a certain way that he does, I could earn that type of money for doing something I love to do, which is teach something that was as impactful as this book for me. Okay, I'm done rambling. I'm going to get back to the major attributes of leadership. The following are important factors of leadership. 1. Unwavering courage based upon knowledge of self and of one's occupation. No follower wishes to be dominated by a leader who lacks self-confidence and courage. No intelligent follower will be dominated by such a leader very long. Okay. Number 1, unwavering courage based upon knowledge of self. So it's going to take me a while to read this book, or this chapter at least, because I keep pausing, but I gotta say, so unwavering courage, you have to be fully confident in myself, or I have to be fully confident in myself to be able to teach this book to you if I expect people to actually follow and listen to me. So that's why I'm glad that I'm going to be teaching it over and over again, because I just need 100% confidence that this book works, people have followed it, and it will work for me just as much as it will work for you. 2, self-control. The man who cannot control himself can never control others. Self-control sets a mighty example for one's followers, which the more intelligent will emulate. 3, a keen sense of justice. So, in terms of the major attributes of a leader, number 3 is a keen sense of justice. Without a sense of fairness and justice, no leader can command and retain the respect of his followers. 4, definiteness of decision. The man who wavers in his decisions shows that he is not sure of himself. He cannot lead others successfully. 5, definiteness of plans. The successful leader must plan his work and work his plan. A leader who moves by guesswork without practical, definite plans is comparable to a ship without a rudder. Sooner or later, he will land on the rocks. 6, the habit of doing more than paid for. One of the penalties of leadership is the necessity of willingness upon the part of the leader to do more than he requires of his followers. 7, a pleasing personality. No slovenly, careless person can become a successful leader. Leadership calls for respect. Followers will not respect a leader who does not grade high on all of the factors of a pleasing personality. 8, sympathy and understanding. The successful leader must be in sympathy with his followers. Moreover, he must understand them and their problems. 9, mastery of detail. Successful leadership calls for mastery of details of the leader's position. 10, willingness to assume full responsibility. The successful leader must be willing to assume responsibility for the mistakes and the shortcomings of his followers. If he tries to shift this responsibility, he will not remain the leader. If one of his followers makes a mistake and shows him incompetent, the leader must consider that it is he who has failed. So, I really want to touch upon this for a sec, because responsibility, when I am leading a group of people, I have to understand that if the people that I am leading are failing, it is actually my responsibility to them, not for them. I'm not responsible for their success. I'm responsible to them to provide them with the correct plans that I am doing. I'm not allowed to tell people theory. You should do this, you should do that. I have to be doing it myself and proving it myself that it is working. I can't give people advice on going live on Facebook unless I'm going live on Facebook and reading this stuff. Okay, number 11, cooperation. The successful leader must understand and apply the principle of cooperative effort and be able to induce his followers to do the same. Leadership calls for power, and power calls for cooperation. There are 2 forms of leadership. The first, and by far the most effective, is leadership of consent of and with the sympathy of the followers. The second is leadership by force, without the consent and sympathy of the followers. History is filled with evidences that leadership by force cannot endure. The downfall and disappearance of dictators and kings is significant. It means that people will not follow forced leadership indefinitely. The world has just entered a new era of relationship building between leaders and followers, with very clear calls for new leaders and a new brand of leadership in business and industry. Those who belong to the old school leadership by force must acquire an understanding of the new brand of leadership, cooperation, or be regulated to the rank of and file of the followers. There is no other way for them. The relationship of employer and employee of leader and follower in the future will be one of mutual cooperation based upon an equitable division of the profits of business. In the future, the relationship of employer and employee will be more like a partnership than it has been in the past. Napoleon, Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany, the Caesar of Russia, and the King of Spain were examples of leadership by force. Their leadership passed. Without much difficulty, one might point to the prototypes of these ex leaders among the business, financial, and labor leaders of America who have been dethroned or slated to go. Leadership by consent of the followers is the only brand which can endure. Men may follow the forced leadership temporarily, but they will not do so willingly. The new brand of leadership will embrace the 11 factors of leadership described in this chapter, as well as some other factors. The man who makes these the basis of his leadership will find abundant opportunity to lead in any walk of life. The Depression was prolonged largely because the world lacked leadership of the new brand. At the end of the Depression, the demand for leaders who are competent to apply the new methods of leadership has greatly exceeded the supply. Some of the old type of leaders will reform and adapt themselves to the new brand of leadership. But generally speaking, the world will have to look for a new timber for its leadership. This necessity may be your opportunity. Okay, now let's get into the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. We come now to the major faults of leaders who fail because it is just as essential to know what not to do as it is to know what to do. 1. Inability to organize details. Efficient leadership calls for ability to organize and to master details. No genuine leader is ever too busy to do anything which may be required of him in his capacity as leader. When a man, whether he is a leader or follower, admits that he is too busy to change his plans or to give attention to any emergency, he admits his inefficiency. The successful leader must be the master of all details connected with his position. That means, of course, that he must acquire the habit of relegating details to capable lieutenants. 2. Unwillingness to render humble service. Truly great leaders are willing, when occasion demands, to perform any sort of labor which they would ask another to perform. The greatest among ye shall be the servant of all, is a truth which all able leaders observe and respect. 3. Expectation of pay for what they know instead of what they do with that which they know. Okay, so if the third major causes of failure in leadership is expectation of pay for what they know instead of what they do with that which they know. The world does not pay men for that which they know. It pays them for what they do or induce others to do. That's important for me to understand because I was a big book nerd. I was reading all these books. I have so much knowledge stored up in my head, but I wasn't making any money. So I realized, okay, I've read all these books, not getting me rich. However, what I'm doing with the knowledge is now learning to teach it. And this is now my new plan to hopefully become rich. Hey, RC. So RC says, the student becoming the teacher. Thanks for reading and presenting this. You're welcome. I'm definitely glad that you get to be here. So thank you. 4. Fear of competition from followers. The leader who fears that one of his followers may take his position is practically sure to realize that fear sooner or later. The able leader trains understudies to whom he may delegate at will any of the details of his position. Only in this way may a leader multiply himself and prepare himself to be at many places and to give attention to many things at one time. It is an eternal truth that men receive more pay for their ability to get others to perform than they could possibly earn by their own efforts. So this is a great example of what Sean's doing. He is following this eternal truth that he will receive more pay for his ability to get people like me, like RC, and the whole misfit community to teach this information to others rather than him teach it all himself. I absolutely love that eternal truth. An efficient leader may, through his knowledge of his job and the magnetism of his personality, greatly increase the efficiency of others and induce them to render more service and better service than they could render without his aid. 5. Lack of imagination. Without imagination, the leader is incapable of meeting emergencies and creating plans by which to guide his followers efficiently. 6. Selfishness. The leader, who claims all the honor for the work of his followers, is sure to be met by resentment. The really great leader claims none of the honors. He is contented to see the honors when there are any go to his followers because he knows that most men will work harder for commendation and recognition than they will for money alone. So what I'm getting from that, from step 6 of selfishness and failing for leader, is do not take the credit. If I do inspire anyone with this book, it is not my right to take the credit for their success in this. And that people, when they get recognized, will actually work harder on their dreams than if I'm paying them. That's what I got from that step 6. Okay, 7, in terms of the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. 7 is intemperance. Followers do not respect an intemperate leader. Moreover, intemperance in any of its various forms destroys the endurance and the vitality of all who indulge in it. So, intemperance stands for what I believe is like anger management issues. I think that's what it means. So, if you lose your cool and make a bunch of emotional decisions, followers will probably not respect you. 8. Disloyalty. Perhaps this should have come at the head of the list. The leader who is not loyal to his trust and to his associates, those above him and those below him, cannot long maintain his leadership. Disloyalty marks one as being less than the dust of the earth and brings down on one's head the contempt he deserves. Lack of loyalty is one of the major causes of failure in every walk of life. Wow. 9. Emphasis of the authority of leadership. The efficient leader leads by encouraging and not by trying to instill fear in the hearts of his followers. The leader who tries to impress his followers with his authority comes within the category of leadership through force. If a leader is a real leader, he will have no need to advertise that fact except by his conduct, his sympathy, understanding, fairness, and demonstration that he knows his job. Okay. I was going to say something on that. I might as well just say it because I got to say it. So, if I'm going to be a leader, I can't express authority over anyone. I can't be like, okay, I'm the leader. This is what I'm doing. And I'm going to lead you by fear. That is actually a road right to failure, is what I'm getting from this. So, finally, the 10th major cause of failure in leadership: emphasis of title. The competent leader requires no title to give him the respect of his followers. The man who makes too much over his title generally has little else to emphasize. The doors to the office of the real leader are open to all who wish to enter, and his working quarters are free from formality or ostentation. So, don't worry about the title, is what I'm getting. These are among the more common of the causes of failure in leadership. Any one of these faults is sufficient to induce failure. Study the list carefully, and if you aspire to leadership, and make sure that you are free from these faults. Okay, so the next section is some fertile fields in which new leadership will be required. I am going to skip over this because it talks about the newspaper business, the banks, religious leaders, and journalism. So I would suggest studying those on your own time, but I think at least 2 or 3 of them are a little outdated, especially the newspaper, the banking, and whatnot. I am going to skip to okay, this is at least cool. I'm going to skip 2 sections because this one chapter that I'm reading is 65 pages, and I don't want to bore you talking about how you got to get into the newspaper industry when there really isn't a newspaper industry, at least the physical version anymore. Okay, how to get the exact position you desire. Everyone enjoys doing the kind of work for which he is best suited. An artist loves to work with paints, a craftsman with his hands, a writer loves to write. Those with less definite talents have their preference for certain fields of business and industry. If America does anything well, it offers a full range of occupations, tilling the soil, manufacturing, marketing, and the professions. First, decide exactly what kind of job you want. If the job doesn't already exist, perhaps you can create it. Second, choose the company or individual for whom you wish to work. Third, study your prospective employer as to policies, personnel, and chances of advancement. Fourth, by analysis of yourself, your talents, and capabilities, figure what you can offer and plan ways and means of giving advantages, services, developments, ideas that you believe you can successfully deliver. Fifth, forget about a job. Forget whether or not there is an opening. Forget the usual routine of, have you got a job for me? Concentrate on what you can give. So I underlined that sentence because I think it's somewhere else in the book. Napoleon Hill says the world's changing from go-getters to go-getters. And there's a law that says it's Newton's third law. It's that uh, it's like if you apply a force, there will be a force equally applied back. So this is physics that we're talking about. If you are focusing so much on giving, you will, by the laws of physics, invariably gain an equivalent amount. So, me teaching this, giving you this information, and really teaching it is at least, I know for right now, allowing me to get a better understanding of the information. And I think personally that if I really help enough people out with this, understanding this book, I may be able to get a lot more than just a better understanding of this information. But Zig Ziglar says you help enough people get what they want, and you will get everything you want. So that is my goal in life, is to get everything I want. 6. Once you have your plan in mind, arrange with an experienced writer to put it on paper in neat form and in full detail. 7th, present it to the proper person with authority and he will do the rest. Every company is looking for men who can give something of value, whether it be ideas, services, or connections. Every company has room for the man who has a definite plan of action, which is to the advantage of that company. This line of procedure may take a few days or weeks of extra time, but the difference in income, in advancement, and in gaining recognition will save years of hard work at small pay. It has many advantages, the main one being that it will often save from 1 to 5 years of time in reaching a chosen goal. Every person who starts or gets in halfway up the ladder does so by deliberate and careful planning, excepting, of course, the boss's son. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So I want to fast forward to I want to fast forward to this section. And I'm still in organized planning, same chapter, chapter 7, page 163. It is called What is your QQS rating. The causes of success in marketing services effectively and permanently have been clearly described. Unless those causes are studied, analyzed, understood, and applied, no man can market his service effectively and permanently. Every person must be his own salesman of personal services. The quality and the quantity of service rendered and the spirit in which it is rendered determine to a large extent the price and the duration of employment. To market personal services effectively, which means a permanent market at a satisfactory price under pleasant conditions. One must adopt and follow the QQS formula, which means that quality plus quantity plus the proper spirit of cooperation equals perfect salesmanship of service. Remember the QQS formula, but do more. Apply it as a habit. Okay, so QQS formula, great acronym to keep in mind. And now that I'm teaching it, it's actually hitting me for the first time. Quality plus quantity. We kind of understand that the quality plus quantity is going to get us sales. But the QQS formula says that quality plus quantity of sales plus the proper spirit of cooperation equals the perfect salesmanship of service. So I like that spirit side of it. Quality, quantity, and then the spirit. The spirit in which I give this information out to you is is equal to the perfect salesmanship of service. Um, that's cool because I notice when I read a script or am saying something and maybe it's a robotic tone or say I'm saying it subconsciously in fear, that's how I'm giving it to you. However, if I'm giving it to you in a spirit of absolute faith and certainty, then you may actually receive it with actual faith and certainty. Okay, let us analyze the formula to make sure we understand exactly what it means. 1. Quality of service shall be construed to mean the performance of every detail in connection with your position in the most efficient manner possible, with the object of greater efficiency always in mind. 2. Quantity of service shall be understood to mean the habit of rendering all the service of which you are capable at all times, with the purpose of increasing the amount of service rendered as greater skill is developed through practice and experience. Emphasis is again placed on the word habit. And 3, spirit of service. Spirit of service shall be construed to mean the habit of agreeable, harmonious conduct, which will induce cooperation from associates and fellow employees. So Napoleon Hill is saying that the spirit part is the habit of agreeable, harmonious conduct, which will induce cooperation from associates and fellow employees. I love that. Adequacy of quality and quantity of service is not sufficient to maintain a permanent market for your services. The conduct or the spirit in which you deliver service is a strong determining factor in connection with both the price you receive and the duration of employment. Andrew Carnegie stressed this point more than others in connection with his description of the factors which lead to success in the marketing of personal services. He emphasized again and again the necessity for harmonious conduct. He stressed the fact that he would not retain any man, no matter how great a quantity or how efficiently the quality of his work, unless he worked in a spirit of harmony. Mr. Carnegie insisted upon men being agreeable. To prove that he placed a high value upon this quality, he permitted many men who conformed to his standards to become very wealthy. Those who did not conform had to make room for others. The importance of a pleasing personality has been stressed because it is a factor which enables one to render service in the proper spirit. If one has a personality which pleases and renders service in the spirit of harmony, these assets often make up for deficiencies in both the quality and the quantity of service one renders. Nothing, however, can be successfully substituted for pleasing conduct. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the critical value of your services. The person whose income is derived entirely from the sale of personal service is no less a merchant than the man who sells commodities, and it might well be added, such a person is subject to exactly the same rules of conduct as the merchant who sells merchandise. This has been emphasized because the majority of people who live by the sale of personal services makes the mistake of considering themselves free from the rules of conduct and the responsibilities attached to those who are engaged in marketing commodities. The new way of marketing services has practically forced both employer and employee into partnership alliances through which both can take into consideration the rights of the third party, the public they serve. The day of the go getter has passed. He has been supplanted by the go giver. I'm going to real quick highlight that. High pressure methods in business finally blew the lid off. There will never be the need to put the lid back on because in the future, business will be conducted by methods that will require no pressure. The actual capital value of your brains may be determined by the amount of income you can produce by marketing your services. A fair estimate of the capital value of your services may be made by multiplying your annual income by 16 and 2/3, as it is reasonable to estimate that your annual income represents 6% of your capital value. Money rents for 6% per annum. Money is worth no more than brains. It is often worth much less. Competent brains, if effectively marketed, represent a much more desirable form of capital than that which is required to conduct a business dealing in commodities, because brains are a form of capital which cannot be permanently depreciated through depressions, nor can this form of capital be stolen or spent. Moreover, the money which is essential for the conduct of business is as worthless as the sand dune until it has been mixed with efficient brains. Okay. Whew. What he said recently is that your brain, the way that you think, is far more valuable than all the money you can really have. This brain right here gives you the potential to earn millions and billions of dollars. That's what I'm getting from this. So, a, a, a bunch of money is not nearly as worth as much as what's in between my head because I can sell ideas through my own mind and really, for personally, I can this if I can really get good at selling these ideas, it is much more valuable than just a few bucks. So I am going to conclude this live with the 30 major causes of failure. So, the 30 major causes of failure. How many of these are holding you back? Life's greatest tragedy consists of men and women who earnestly try and fail. The tragedy lies in the overwhelmingly large majority of people who fail as compared to the few who succeed. I have had the privilege of analyzing several thousand men and women, 98% of whom were classed as failures. There is something radically wrong with the civilization, a system of education which permits 98% of the people to go through life as failures. But I did not write this book for the purpose of moralizing on the rights and wrongs of the world. That would require a book 100 times the size of this one. My analysis work, my my analysis work proved that there are 30 major reasons for failure and 13 major principles through which people can accumulate fortunes. So keep these numbers in mind. Think and Grow Rich, this book, lays out 13 principles. And you can find those 13 principles in the table of contents. I would suggest just memorizing the principles so that you have a name for them, so that you can understand when they come up throughout your life. Because this book is more so about understanding yourself. There's a reason I read it over and over every day. It's because it's still all about me. And these principles apply to everyone equivalently. So understand that there's 13 principles for creating fortunes, and then there's 30 major causes of failure. This isn't necessarily specific to failure in leadership. This is just 30 major causes of failure. And I'm going to run through these before I conclude this live. Okay, my analysis work proved there are 13 major reasons for failure, 30 major reasons for failure, and 13 major principles through which people accumulate fortunes. In this chapter, a description of the 30 major causes of failure will be given. As you go over the list, check yourself by it, point by point, for the purpose of discovering how many of these causes of failure stand between you and success. 1. Unfavorable heredity background. There is but little, if anything, which can be done for people who are born with a deficiency in brain power. This philosophy offers but one method of bridging this weakness through the aid of the mastermind. Observe with profit, however, that this is the only one of the 30 causes of failure which may not be easily corrected by an individual. So let me just take a moment, say that I'm grateful that I was born with a brain that works fully, that I've kept it healthy throughout the years. And thank you, God, that I do not have any deficiencies with my brain. 2, a lack of well defined purpose in life. There is no hope of success for the person who does not have central purpose or a definite goal at which to aim. 98 out of every 100 of those whom I have analyzed had no such aim. Perhaps this was the major cause of their failure. 3, lack of ambition to aim above mediocrity. We offer no hope for the person who is so indifferent as not to want to get ahead in life and who is not willing to pay the price. Okay, 4, insufficient education. This is a handicap which may be overcome with comparative ease. Experience has proven that the best educated people are often those who are known as self made or self educated. It takes more than a college degree to make one a person of education. Any person who is educated, this is important, any person who is educated is one who has learned to get whatever he or she wants in life without violating the rights of others. So keep this in mind. I said this yesterday during reading this chapter. Just because I have a college degree does not mean I'm educated. And Napoleon Hill says, any person who is educated is one who has learned to get whatever he wants in life without violating the rights of others. Education consists not so much of knowledge, but of knowledge effectively and persistently applied. Men are paid not merely for what they know, but more particularly for what they do with that which they know. Okay, that is very key. For yeah. Okay, moving forward. Wow. Okay, so yeah, the education part, I love it. Definitely want to emphasize that it's not about what I know. I got all this knowledge stored in my head, but that doesn't matter because that doesn't mean I'm educated to me personally, and I don't think it means that to Napoleon Hill. 5, lack of self-discipline. Discipline comes through self-control. This means that one must control all negative qualities. Before you can control conditions, you must first control yourself. Self mastery is the hardest job you will ever tackle. If you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self. You may see at one time and the same time both your best friend and your greatest enemy by stepping in front of a mirror. Wow. Okay, so I am reading Think and Grow Rich, and I'm going through the 30 major causes of failure right now. So we're on number 6, ill health. No person may enjoy outstanding success without good health. Many of these causes of ill health are subject to mastery and control. These in the main are A, overeating of foods not conducive to health. B, wrong habits of thought given expression to negatives. C, wrong use of and overindulgence in sex. D, lack of proper physical exercise. And E, an adequate supply of fresh air due to improper breathing. All right, just got to take a deep breath in on that last note. Okay, number 7 in the major causes of failure. Unfavorable environmental influences during childhood. As the twig is bent, so shall the tree grow. Most people who have criminal tendencies acquire them as a result of bad environment and improper